What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today I have my Seattle Seahawks season preview for y'all, so let's hop into it. And if you like this type of stuff, please consider subscribing. But anyway, last year, the Seahawks kind of surprised the world. They traded Russell Wilson away. Nobody really expected them to do good, but yet they finished with a 9-8 record, which was second in the NFC West. They made the playoffs, but then lost in the wild card game to San Francisco 41-23. So they made it to the playoffs, lost to a division opponent in a year where I don't think a lot of people really expected them to even make it that far. So good on them. So let's just move and talk about some of their offseason moves. So some of the notable players that they signed and brought in was defensive tackle Draymond Jones. He was one of the bigger names that they brought in. Linebacker Devin Bush, safety Julian Love, and then they brought defensive tackle Jaron Reed back and linebacker Bobby Wagner back. So two familiar faces for Seahawks fans. All their notable free agent signings were on that defensive side of the ball, at least the ones I thought were notable to put in the video. They also re-signed guys like linebacker Nick Bellore, quarterback Geno Smith got an extension, quarterback Drew Lock, cornerback Artie Burns, cornerback Mike Johnson, offensive guard Phil Haynes, and linebacker Uchenna Nwosu also got an extension. So a decent little handful of players that Seattle retained, so that is good for them. They also lost a solid chunk of players as well, mainly on the defensive side of the ball, with a few offensive players sprinkled in there. But they lost defensive end Quentin Jefferson, wide receiver Laquan Treadwell, running back Rashad Penny, defensive end Puna Ford, wide receiver Marquise Goodwin, defensive back Jonathan Abram, defensive tackle Al Woods, safety Ryan Neal, and linebacker Cody Barton. So, like I said, mainly on that defensive side of the ball, but a lot of their notable free agents that they did bring in were on the defensive side of the ball. And on my thing, I only have defensive players. So they did fine addressing that need. And they had a really good draft class. With their first pick, they got cornerback Devin Witherspoon, one of the best corners in this past year's draft. Then they grabbed wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, who kind of fell a little bit in the draft. Now they have one of the better receiving corps in the league with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Smith-Njigba. They also grabbed linebacker Derek Hall, running back Zach Charbonnet, offensive guard Anthony Bradford, defensive tackle Cameron Young, defensive end Mike Morris. They also grabbed center Aluscam Olawatimi, safety Jarek Reed II, running back Kenny McIntosh. So they had a deep draft class. They had a ton of picks, and a lot of these guys I think can contribute to this team. Witherspoon, Smith-Njigba, Derek Hall, just to name a few. So a really good draft in my opinion. And I do think Seattle will be competitive once again. I do think San Francisco will take that division. So with all this in mind, let's move over to their schedule and my record prediction for the Seahawks. So in week one, they have the Los Angeles Rams, a division opponent. So it's their first of two matchups against them. And I'm not super high on the Rams this year. And I think the Seahawks will sweep them. So I think they get a win right here in week one, as well as over here in week 11. But then in week two, they have the Detroit Lions, who I am pretty high on. And I do think they probably lose right here to the Lions. And this game is on the road, so it's not that big of a deal that they lost. But coming back home in week three, they have the Carolina Panthers led by a rookie quarterback in Bryce Young. So they rebound nicely with a win over the Panthers. And then they have a Monday night football game in week four against the New York Giants. And this is on the road. And I think this is going to be a really fun matchup to watch. And this could really go either way. But I do think the Giants will probably get the better of the Seahawks right here. Heading into their week 5 bye, which is really early, and they're sitting at a 2-2 record, so sitting at 500, they're playing fine. And then coming out of the bye, they have Cincinnati on the road, and this is just tough. Going into Cincinnati, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, ton of weapons, and I think they probably lose this one to the Bengals out of their bye. But they rebound nicely with their first matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, another team that I think they will sweep this year. So I'm going to give them the win right here in week 7, as well as down here in week 18. I think the Cardinals are going to be one of the bottom tier teams in the league this year. So the Seahawks shouldn't have too many issues with them. And then they have the Cleveland Browns at home. And the Browns could be really good. The Browns could be really bad. And I don't think it really matters here as the Seahawks beat the Browns. Then they're on the road again in week 9, another AFC North opponent in the Baltimore Ravens, and I do think they lose this one right here to the Ravens. And back home for week 10, they have a matchup with the Washington Commanders. And the Commanders are an improved team. I think they will be good, but I just don't think they're quite as good as Seattle. So Seattle gets the win right here in week 10. And then we already talked about this matchup against the Rams. And then on Thanksgiving, they have their first matchup against the 49ers. And I think the 49ers will sweep the Seahawks this year. So the 49ers win right here in week 12, as well as down here in week 14. So they have the 49ers twice in 3 weeks, and that's just tough. And sandwiched in between those games is a date with the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football, another really good team. So I feel like they go on a little losing streak right here and lose to the Cowboys as well. And it doesn't get much easier as after that, then they have the Philadelphia Eagles at home, and they lose once more right here to the Eagles. But on Christmas Eve, they have the Tennessee Titans. And I'm not super high on the Titans either this year. They struggled down the stretch last year with injuries. Derrick Henry's getting older. And at this point in the season, both teams could be decimated by injuries, but I'm trying not to speculate on that. But I do think Seattle will get the win right here against the Titans. And then right here on New Year's Eve, they have the Pittsburgh Steelers at home, their last AFC North opponent. And I do think they will beat the Steelers right here. They will split with the AFC North. They will go 2-2. They beat the Steelers and the Browns, but lose to the Bengals and the Ravens. So that brings the Seahawks record to 9-8 once again. And I didn't even mean to do this on purpose. And I think this record is probably on the lower side. Hopefully, Geno Smith can perform like he did last year and have another really good year. If he doesn't, then this record I do think is really in the realm of possibilities. And they do have a pretty tough schedule. They're in a relatively tough division with the 49ers. They have a tough stretch right here when they play the 49ers twice, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. So let me know what you guys think. Like the video, please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you with another season preview. God bless.